Welcome to the July 27th, 2021 episode of Reactive Consciousness. Man, July is just flying by. Our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And that was really good there, Lotus.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I try.
Yeah, that was really good. We got another wonderful show here with some crummy news in it.
Yep.
That we had to go over. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a gaming outlet that isn't talking about this, but Lotus, I'll let you go ahead on this one because I know you've been following it closely. You brought it up to me. You broke it to me first, but I'll of course add here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen other people talking about it, but basically, this probably is not a shock because a lot of gaming companies are just, like, apparently if you actually work there, are quite toxic.
Bro culture. Actually, a lot of, like, tech firms in general.
Yeah, Ubisoft has had its fair share of news for a while. We're actually not talking about them this time. Can you believe it? No. Instead, it's no, not Quantic Dream either. That was a couple weeks ago too. Hang on.
Not Ubisoft.
Yeah, not Ubisoft. Not Quantic Dream. Damn. What is it? But Activision Blizzard is actually being sued by the state of California. They've apparently been pursuing this for, I think, like 2 years for just varying things. Like, if you look at the headlines, it says, quote, frat boy culture. Obviously, that's not literally the legal thing that they're being sued for, but it encompasses the general idea. Like sexual harassment in the workplace, discrimination against women, unequal pay, etc. So, like, can you believe it? Activision Blizzard is not a great company to support.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think it's like a lot of kind of things have been like pointing towards it. Like they had a former person that was like known for like torture. Like in the government, working there, like literal torture, like Guantanamo stuff.
Damn.
I
don't think I knew about this.
Yeah. There's just like the major thing they get around it that is pointing to is that it's basically like a gigantic boys club, and a lot of corporations are like that / used to be like that, but are either trying to rectify it in most cases or like attempting to seem like they're not.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're attempting to rectify it once they get put on blast in front of everybody.
Yeah, but I mean most really big companies try are like I've worked for a lot of big companies in my day, and they at least like have a big show about like inclusiveness and that kind of thing. And
well, I mean, they have those presentations, but do they though?
Yeah, well, you
watch your little.
Still going to be a background element of.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you watch
on.
Your little employee instructional video on the first week, and you're like, okay, and then you see what shit actually is like when you work there.
No, but I mean, there are varying degrees of this, but the current company that I work for is like really good about it. Let's just put it that way, and better than you'd think like a big company would be. And so like this day and age, when you're so visible on this particular stuff after so many like public controversies, you'd think that they would try to change the culture of it.
You would, but decades go by and they don't.
Yeah, it's really pretty terrible. Like, and for the state to get involved, they need to have a really good case with a lot of evidence built up.
Yeah, that's what got me. It's not like an employee has had enough. Like, the state of California.
It's not even a class action lawsuit or something. This is like the state is suing them.
Yeah, this is serious.
Yeah. They must have a lot on them from a lot of different complaints. Like they have a systemic culture issue, and I believe it. I mean, based off of the things that I've seen, like that people have dug up, like videos of like people at like BlizzCon and things like that.
Yeah, there was one that was going around on Twitter about someone who was asking a question about like
Just like a simple
having
question.
like different body types for female characters in WoW or something.
And it's a pretty simple request, especially for a game that has a very large female base. Like a large part of the WoW audience is female.
That's the thing that people never seem to
Really
realize,
large
even though it's been
part of it.
pointed out 100 times. Like, you know how there's always somebody trying to warn you that video games cause violence, even though study after study after study over like 15 years has shown there's no correlation?
It's always a deflection for like not addressing real world problems, like like systemic societal ills and poor education availability in poor areas.
Yeah,
Like,
well, and then there's also stuff like,
yeah.
oh, the Crusades. They must have really played a lot of video games before getting into those. But
yeah, people have been hitting each other with maces for a lot longer than video games have been around.
But the reason I bring that up though is that what also is pointed out constantly, and yet people still don't seem to realize it, is the distribution of male to female gamers is like around. It's like give or take a couple points, but it's around 50-50.
I think it might be to the point where there are more female gamers.
That could very well be, yeah.
And that's kind of where it should be because there are more female people in the world.
Well, and a lot of guys try to skew the numbers because they're like, well, Candy Crush doesn't really count. It's like, well, yes, it does.
I'm full with I'm done with this gatekeeping bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, like everything counts. Everything that's a game that is a game. A lot of online games are very well supported by female gamers. So
yeah, and they're also just straight up
especially
communities.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
fact,
I mean,
in the really early days of the pandemic, before Zoom became particularly prolific, some like really clever people decided to have their classrooms or whatever just sign up for a free MMO and just gather in like a hub and communicate that way. That's fucking genius.
Of people that's their social thing for them that week. Plenty of people do that. I dated a girl back, way back when that her entire family got together on WoW, and that's how they like did their family bonding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, like, and they would be in the same house all playing together. So like in different rooms. It's
Sure.
It's a big deal, and especially a game like WoW, which is the largest MMO that's ever existed and will exist probably.
Although the funny thing about that is that some people, in response to this Blizzard thing, like, oh, I didn't know it was that shitty. Like, people are like dropping their WoW accounts.
Of course they are.
But the funny thing is, like, oh, let's go to Final Fantasy 14. Oh no, they're literally full. Fuck.
That's kind of funny too, but
What timing?
I mean, and not just like the sexual harassment end of it, but like the unequal pay is something that is like systemic in culture in general.
Oh yeah, it has been for a long time.
Well, forever, right?
Mm.
So it's just. I'm getting sick of hearing it. You know what I mean? It really is shitty.
Yeah, it really shouldn't be that hard to just like do your fucking job.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like this is why women have been scared about going into certain professions. So like things like tech jobs, because the bro culture is so high in those things because it was dominated for so long.
Well, and even before that, if you go to college for math or science or programming or engineering, like, you'll be one of 3 women there, and everyone will look at you like, okay, you're not really gonna go through with this, are you? So like even before, there's that whole ridiculous stigma to it, or not stigma, but there's the whole like bias against it.
It's ridiculous. There was like a big thing going on about certain publications online as well, being like that, and I completely believe it. It's one of those things. I completely believe it. And it's unfortunate, but like major cultural shifts have to happen in these companies, and I'm glad that I'm not glad for the problem, but I'm glad that the state of California is doing something about it, because this will actually get them to
Yeah, again, the state.
action.
Like this is
Yeah,
significant.
exactly. So there's not much else to say other than this is shitty. They need to rectify it, and they need to do things other than just say, "Hey, we're sorry," because they're just gonna say sorry to cover their asses.
Oh, of
They need
course.
to systemically change their culture
Or my favorite is when they're like, okay,
from the
yes,
top
this
down.
happened. This definitely happened with this employee or these employees, but this isn't us. Well, yes, it is. That's why you're getting sued.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And their response to it has been inconsistent because, first of all, this is a gigantic company, so there are a lot. I'm sure it's very top heavy there,
Yeah.
considering they are a merger of two gigantic companies to begin with. So the Activision side is so massive because they support basically one game. Um, So like this one gigantic behemoth of a game that's annualized now.
Yeah.
So
And of course on Blizzard's side, the Lost Vikings.
that just came out on Switch, man.
Yeah, isn't that unbelievable?
Both of them are on there.
Now you don't
North
need
by
the
Northwest
team
is on
player
there.
to play multiplayer. It's great.
But yeah, I don't have much else to say other than this is shitty. They need to take care of it.
Yeah.
And there's no option. Companies are getting away with less and less when it comes to that, and honestly, they're overdue. I'm very surprised it took this long.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let this be a lesson to like what I assume is the majority of other companies.
Oh yeah, I mean, smaller companies have this problem too because a lot of they don't have like the same kind of fears that a large company does. Over cultural reaction. I mean, this a company like Activision Blizzard is a global company, so they really have to clamp down on this,
Yeah.
or else they're just going to be losing profits hand over fist, and people aren't going to give a shit. But like there are plenty of small companies that just won't ever change their culture because it's from the top down. So we really need to get people this embedded in their thought that when they run a company they have to make it a place of equality. It just has to be that way. Or else not only you're going to be running a deeply flawed company from the very foundation of it. I hope it gets better, but it's just one of those things. It's just like I'm not optimistic on it because it's been so shitty for so long, and it keeps happening. So I'm just glad that there are consequences for it now, much better consequences than there used to be, and hopefully, there's a cultural shift that goes in favor of protecting people that are discriminated against. But it's such a long and daunting thing, and I can't hope but to feel frustrated, especially for the people that are being taken advantage of. I mean, these people are working hard, and doing their part, and they're just getting shit on while doing it. It's really terrible, awful. But anyway. You also broke the next couple things actually.
Yeah,
So
this
why
thing
don't you just go for it?
this thing greatly amused me. So there are a lot of high-profile news sites like the Huffington Post, Washington Post, stuff like that. That all of a sudden, a bunch of pornography appeared on these major sites.
The Washington Post is owned by Amazon, like just to show you how like big these
Yeah,
companies are.
and
like,
just they got hit with porn. However, could that happen? You may ask. Well, they had a bunch of older videos that were embedded. They were like, this is not a YouTube embed, this is Vidme, which I was going to say no longer exists, but that's not really true. Vidme was purchased by 5-Star Porn, and they replaced a lot of the videos with their porn content, so the news sites didn't see it coming because it's not their video. They embedded someone else's URL, and now this is what the URL shows. So now they're going to have to scramble to get that shit off. That's why, even though it may be less convenient, you can't just look it up on YouTube or something. This is why there are some websites like NBC.com that have proprietary video players, because they can control their stuff and this cannot happen. It reminds me of the time when, this is a few years ago. Have you ever heard of SMBC Comics, Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal?
Yeah. You've talked about them many times. I unfortunately don't have much experience with reading them, but I know that you like them quite a bit.
They're funny, usually one-panel comics. I mean, it's always one, like, image. They're not serial. But it's usually, like, a joke divided into maybe one or a couple panels, and then if you click the little red button to the lower right of the comic, there's, like, a little extra bit if you want to see that, too. And this site's been up forever, like, since I was in college. But the reason I bring them up is that the author, Zach Weinersmith, did something very similar, where I don't know how he did it, but he went to, like, sites that had, like, anti-gay stuff or whatever and replaced their embeds with, like, the rainbow flag and stuff like that. He made news when he did that. So, like, this is the same thing, except both of them were kind of shit posts, but his had a positive message to it. The porn thing is like just funny. So it's like, take that.
That's pretty great.
I mean, so watch out sites that host Vidme, and let this be a lesson. If for some bizarre reason, I can't see this happening, but if for some reason YouTube ever folds, get rid of your embeds, because if a porn site buys it, you're gonna be in real trouble.
Well, what it reminds me of is back when Steam first started.
Sure.
When it was basically just a delivery system for Half-Life 2.
Yeah, that was how they made you get Steam, because Half-Life 2, I remember it was the first game where it's like, or at least the first game I was aware of, when you buy it, oh, well, you're going to need to install Steam to play this, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly. And like, it barely worked. The friends the friends section was non-functional. It was not used for online play, really. It basically just didn't work, except to deliver.
It was just a DRM. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when you signed up for it and you got Half-Life 2, you got a bunch of other little bonus games to go along with it. And one of them was like a Valve-themed Peggle. You know, like Peggle was pretty fun game.
Well, you know what I would really be excited about is Peggle 2! You ever see that video?
But no,
I've never. Funny as shit. Like, the guy does like a full-on Shoryuken, like, and here's the next announcement. It's like fucking Peggle 2.
But yeah, Peggle is a casual but fun game. But I think it was owned by EA at the time, who was I think a co-publisher, at least for the physical version of Half-Life 2. So like, that's why it was included, that kind of thing. But they had like a special version of it. You know, like the mascot of Peggle is like the unicorn. And they had like a head crab on the unicorn. It was really funny.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
But there were a bunch of other little games, too, and one of them was called Codename Gordon, which was a fan-made 2D Half-Life game, but it kind of had an official sanctioning by doing this. And it was, you know, a pretty fun, like, 2D platformer with kind of, like, mouse controls, so like you could aim up and down.
Sure.
And but it was fun and like a cool little thing, and it had a little bit of humor to it. And like, all of a sudden you couldn't find the game to re-download it on Steam. And like, even if you owned it, it wasn't showing up in your library. And that's very unusual, because like, even delisted stuff shows up on your Half-Life or your Valve Steam library, right?
Sure. So same goes for, I think, like PlayStation Network and stuff like that. If you've already bought it, then you can reacquire it. You just might not be able to buy it for the first time.
So what had happened was when you used to like load up Codename Gordon, it used to have a link to the website of the developer. Well, apparently the developer had folded and sold their website to a porn site.
Oh, it's the same
And
thing then.
yeah, exactly. So you got like links to like I think it even showed you porn when you when you opened up the game.
Yeah, just to hit you, like, gotcha.
So like of course they it's like one of the very few instances in which Valve has like completely scrubbed a game
Yeah.
off of there. I think you can get it in roundabout ways, you know, like backdoor ways, kind of like how you get like PT nowadays, but like it's yeah, it's just one of those things. But I just thought that it's very similar kind of situation. That's what it reminds me
Yeah,
of.
that's pretty spot on.
So, moving on from that, you also had a couple other things here. Jeez.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One of them, it's like recently Max Payne had its 20th anniversary, and what was cool is that,
Man, I love that game.
well, what was really cool is that Sam Lake, like the guy who is Max Payne, like visually, I didn't realize this, but there's a completely different person who does Max Payne's voice. It is not Sam Lake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like their voices are not even close, but it was
Like
cool.
like that goofy face that Max makes is
Yeah, the super frown.
his face.
Yeah, Sam Lake is Max Payne visually, but it's like a Darth Vader situation where David Prowse is the body and James Earl Jones is the voice. So Sam Lake is who you see when you see Max Payne, but again, I forgot the name, but a different person did the voice. But it was cool because they both did a video where they were thanking you for being fans, and you actually get to hear Sam Lake talk, and it is not Max Payne's voice because, you know, two guys. It was just amusing to see.
Yeah.
And Sam Lake,
awesome.
he still has the look.
Yeah.
His hair's a bit grayer. Like, what do you want? It's been 20 years, but
exactly.
like, he just looks like Max Payne because he is.
That's awesome. I love that series so much. I really loved it because like it was synonymous with like getting my new Xbox at the time because I had it on my OG Xbox, and eventually I played the PC version of the second one, and boy did I fall in love with that game even harder.
Yeah, my brother had the PC version of the first one.
The PC's the way to go. I mean, it's even better than the Xbox version, which was good at the time, but this is even better.
And the next piece of information, this greatly entertained me because it took a second for me to figure out what was going on. This is a King of Fighters 15 reveal, and I haven't mentioned this before because it didn't really matter, but whenever they reveal a new character, you'll see them do a couple of moves or whatever, and then it'll drop their name, like Kyo Kusanagi, you know, something like that, and then it goes into their move sets. But this one, I mean, it's obviously a human, but he's got this giant dinosaur head. It's like Armor King, except it's a dinosaur head, and they're like, the king of dinosaurs. I'm like, what the fuck? But when I heard this person doing his moves, I was like, wait a minute.
You know who they are.
I think I know who this is. So, because he's doing Justice Hurricane. And I'm like, oh, it's Tizak. He's the guy who usually has, like, the eagle costume. Where he, like, grabs you and
he's
immediately... Yeah, he grabs you and immediately does, like, a rapid-fire Zangief suplex. Or, not suplex. The corkscrew pile driver. Like, Justice Hurricane! And he just, like, slams super fast. But he's in a dinosaur costume, and he has some moves where he lunges at you with his big dinosaur head. It's great. But what really tickles me is that he's got this full-on mask. The voice actor's voice is muffled because he's wearing a mask. So like it's fantastic. So I was just pleased to see this. I guess Tizak is taking on a new wrestling character, I suppose, but it's clearly the same guy.
Yeah, what's cool about it is it kind of has like that feel of like Mick Foley, who had like several different characters,
he just rebrands.
They never acknowledge it.
Tizak went from an eagle, now he's a dinosaur. Fine, all right. It's great.
Yeah, I don't think he's been around since Mark of Wolves, and Mark of Wolves like was just such a cool game.
Yeah, I'm not sure I remember him since like maybe Neo Geo Battle Coliseum or something. Possibly,
okay, yeah,
maybe. I'm not 100%.
Okay, maybe you're right, but I That's what I know him from. I know him from Mark of the Wolves, and
I mean, he must have been in something since that, but I don't know. I don't really follow King of Fighters that much, but there's been like 5 KOF since then. It's been a long time.
I'm pretty sure this is the only one, but
maybe you're right.
But yeah, I King of the Fight. Mark of the Wolves is probably my favorite fighting game of all time. I love it, and it's really cool to see one of the standout characters because he's really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
In that game,
he's very bombastic.
Honestly, the characters in that game are very iconic. It's a shame that they kind of get pushed to the side because I guess because it was kind of a failure to some degree, and it's a shame because it was kind of like Street Fighter 3 at the time. Like people didn't like the all new cast. Besides Terry.
Well,
Terry was the only old character.
Well, what was also probably a problem is that it was a Neo Geo and a Dreamcast game, and nobody owned either of those systems. Like Street Fighter 3 took off because it was possible to play it.
Well,
Third Strike at the very least. It took until Third Strike, but people played it.
Street Fighter 3 was on the Dreamcast as well. I don't think it ever made it to the PS2.
Well, no, it didn't. Street Fighter 3 is freaking dead. But Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, though, that made it out.
I don't think it made it, except for maybe the Street Fighter collection, like a long while down.
I just remember my friend playing it in college, and I don't believe any of us brought up a Dreamcast. If it was part of a collection, then maybe that's one thing. But it eventually hit something that was possible to play it on. I just don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was, maybe a Street Fighter Anniversary Collection.
Maybe that is what it was.
Yeah, it came out on PS2 eventually, I guess. Yeah, but either way, I'm just glad to see him because it kind of like Rock. I never get a chance to see those characters.
Yeah, Rock was in like
really
Capcom
cool.
versus SNK2, and then he just vanished off the face of the earth.
Well, he's back in the newest one.
Okay, fair enough.
In 14.
Okay, that's good.
I think he's going to be in 15 too, so I'm excited for that.
I always liked him in Capcom versus SNK2 because most people, when if you want to get out of a corner, you can roll through your opponent, and everybody has a roll animation. But Rock, he runs at the opponent and does that anime like shing thing where he just appears and appears on the other side past them.
Love it.
You're like, nice.
Love it.
That's just what his roll animation looks like. It's not a roll. It's great.
Well, excited for that for sure. What was kind of funny was the silhouette when they revealed the silhouette. It kind of was kind of an amorphous, kind of blobbish kind of
you're like,
thing.
this isn't a human shape, and then it's a giant like dinosaur head. Like, oh.
So a bunch of people like were guessing what it was, and some people were posting like a picture of Ditto.
Who knows?
I put a picture of Oogie Boogie from Night.
That's pretty good.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oogie Boogie.
But yeah, I would play a fighting game with Oogie Boogie in it. That'd be pretty sweet.
Speaking of a game with Oogie Boogie in it, Nightmare Before Christmas, I think it's called Oogie's Revenge or something on PS2. They actually have like a full singing, like I think it's Danny Elfman like doing the voice of Jack Skellington for the singing bits for like the final boss theme. It's like a secret Nightmare on Elm Street song, or Nightmare on Elm Street, a secret Nightmare Before Christmas song that nobody heard because it's in the video game only. The Nightmare on Elm Street would be a bit of a different take, I think. Whoops.
Welcome to Halloween Town, bitch.
Yeah.
Oh man, we should make that. Anyway, we should move on to the next one, which is also yours.
Yeah, this is
this is bananas.
Yeah, this is one of the crazier things, I think, on this entire Reactive. But 4 things went up for pre-order. As far as I know, just for Switch. I'm not 100%. If it has
PS4 for at least some of them.
It does have PS4 counterparts? Okay, fair enough. But man, there's stuff I didn't even know about on this one. There's Trails of Zero. This is like the Trails of Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel. Well, there are other Trails of games. There's Trails of Zero, which we talked about on the podcast before. There's Trails of Azure.
Which is the second one.
Yeah, I think it's called Trails into Reverie, and then there's, I forgot what it's called, Namoya Boundless Trails. Like, all of this is up for pre-order, so oh boy, get ready.
They're all coming in
this'll-
like 2022 as well. I
Yeah,
think.
you have some time before they get here, but like these Trails games are very long, so brace yourself.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'm gonna get them because like Jesus Christ, I have to play the first 3 games already, and they're like gigantic.
Yeah, I
Tra- uh,
own Sky 1 and 2 and Cold Steel 1, 2, I think 3 and maybe 4. It's like it's like Persona. Like I'm never going to play any of these.
well, the thing is with Persona is you can start on any of them because they're pretty self-contained.
No, that's true. Persona 5 exists by itself, although I
Yeah.
think Strikers might kind of count as a sequel, but like whatever.
Yeah, I mean the way it's like official fanfic.
Yeah, it's like Persona like Arena. Like it's a sequel to
Yeah.
4 and there's
But
characters
not
from 3 in it. Like what?
nothing that happens in those affect anything that happened in the original game. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and furthermore, what happens in Arena will not affect 5 either. It's not like, oh, if only I'd play the fighting game, so, like, that's a relief. But if you want more lore, play the fighting game.
Yeah, yeah. The only one that I'm pretty interested is Tales of Revelry because that
Or
is
Trails,
the action
Trails.
game. That is the action game, I believe.
Okay.
It kind of plays like Svi, I think. So I wanna check that one out for sure. But that's the only one that I'm like, yeah, I want that. But like the RPG ones are absolutely worth your time if you are into that and have the time for it. I just don't. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually like admitting it. Maybe if one of these days I play the Trails in the Sky 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm like, okay, I want to play these cross-bell games before I move on to Cold Steel.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're lucky enough to live in a world where all of the games in this series are finally available to
Yeah, I
us.
can't even believe it.
Yeah,
Like, I've heard of Zero.
especially-
I'm not 100% if I knew about Azure. I do not think I knew about Reverie, and I definitely did not know about Boundless Trails.
I don't know which one Boundless Trails is. That might be the fighting game.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
And what was the actual... The Legend of Nayuta. That's what it is. Boundless Trails.
Yeah, Trails of Revelry. It Trails into Revelry is the
Reverie, I believe.
Reverie. Reverie, yeah, you're right, as in reverence. Is the third game. It's a semi-direct sequel to the Crossbell duology and an epilogue to both. So, wow, yeah. No, this is an RPG as well. So this is basically like a secret third game in that duology.
It's nuts.
And I think the other one is the Boundless Trails. Is the Legend of Nayuta.
Yeah.
Boundless Trails is the action game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it plays like Ys or Zvi 2. So that's the one I'm gonna buy. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for the people that really wanted this to happen.
Oh, yeah. Trails of Zero has existed forever. We just haven't gotten it.
Yeah, I'm just excited that also the people that worked on it for so long got some legitimacy because the basis of the official release is actually the fan release, or is the fan project. So that's a really, really cool thing. So yeah, I'm definitely like pre-ordering Nayuta because that's the one that I'm interested in. But one of these days I would absolutely love to play the others. It's just I'm still playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, man, and I have been for the whole fucking year. And it is such a big game that like I can't play anything else, right? I just can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a secret Dragon Quest game.
Yeah, it is. It just straight up is.
It's overt about it. They name drop Dragon Quest multiple times.
Yeah, which I still can't believe, by the way, because they're not related company wide or anything like that. So, but yeah, this is cool and exciting. So on to my stuff, which is actually pales in comparison to your stuff. You had all the heavy hitters this time, Lotus. I just thought this was interesting. It's not even one I'm going to participate in, but I just thought it was cool that Power Stone is finally getting put on vinyl for its soundtrack.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I don't know what that soundtrack sounds like. I never really played Power Stone.
It kind of has like almost like an Indiana Jones like Road to Adventure kind of.
Oh, okay.
Like a lot of trumpets and that kind of thing. Like adventure is afoot. Blue skies and all that. Yeah, that's what Power Stone sounds like. So, but yeah, I just thought it was cool because Power Stone hardly ever gets any attention, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Power Stone just because it was like the first game I ever played for Dreamcast, and I just loved the Dreamcast so much when I was a kid. So, I just thought it was neat. Speaking of Persona 4 Arena, but there's a rumor going around that Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, which is the second one, it will be remastered and put on modern platforms. I find that likely, so I think it makes sense, because it was a popular game and it's a lot of fun. It might not be a tournament game. I don't know how the tournament scene feels about any game because it's so weird what they like and what they don't like. But I really loved playing this game back when it came out. Despite the fact that I didn't have a whole lot of experience with the Persona games. This has characters from Persona 4 and Persona 3 in it, I really enjoyed what I did play of it. It was a lot of fun, and it was very beginner friendly, especially for a Arc Systems game. So it wasn't nearly as like ridiculous as BlazBlue gets or BlazBlue. I don't know what the proper way of saying BlazBlue is anymore, but
and Persona would eventually, I think it was 4, would eventually cross over with BlazBlue and BlazBlue Cross Track Battle.
Yeah,
along with other franchises.
Yeah. The Arc System games I have such a hard time keeping up with. They make so many updates so quickly that they just blow me out of the water. And I hardly ever play fighting games. The only ones I ever play are like I play a little bit of Mortal Kombat because me and my wife will just love like performing the fatalities on each other. But like it's I kind of like just like the story ones, and so this is definitely for me because this has story to it. So
well, maybe you'll like the BlazBlue games then, because they're just straight up visual novels when you're not fighting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even recognize any of the characters from that series. I don't even know who they are. And I got like the first couple of them. I just don't remember them at all. Whereas I at least with Guilty Gear, I know who the characters are. But yeah, I don't know. Moving on from that, so we reported that not reported. It's not like I came up with any of these things by doing any hard reporting. You broke the story
personally. Notice. You were on the scene.
I'm wearing my fedora, like we're asking the tough questions.
Yeah, with a little piece of paper in your hat that says press.
Yeah, meeting up with my informants in dank parking decks.
Did you hear about the new video game?
Call me Deep Void. But we before talked about let's go a little bit better. We just talked about it. Dead Space, perhaps getting some kind of new entry a little while ago, and EA announced that Dead Space, the original Dead Space, is indeed getting a remake, which I'm all for. I mean, the especially you know what, the whole trilogy is good. So
so we're getting a remake of System Shock 2.
I mean, you got to give Dead Space 1 a lot more credit than that. That game is a lot of fun.
No, Dead Space is definitely its own game. but the story beats are System Shock 2.
Yeah, but so is everything else. Come on.
Well, no, I mean like particular ones.
Oh, so's Bioshock. Like,
Well, Bioshock is just like at least Dead Space feels different. Bioshock is System Shock 2 with an Ayn Rand skin.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I mean, I was calling like most of the story as I was playing it. At least I didn't do that with Dead Space.
Well, see, the thing is, at that time, it was so hard to get a copy of that game that barely anybody knew.
Yeah, System Shock 2 was like inaccessible, but Bioshock was a straight up underwater System Shock 2. Like, I couldn't believe it. At least Dead Space tried to be different.
I mean, it's kind of like when Avatar came out, like, and everybody's just like, "This just Dances with Wolves, you clowns." But at least you have access to Dances with Wolves, you know, like, like you could watch that whenever you want, right? Because that was an Oscar winner. But like, yeah, But Dead Space is a really, really fun game, and maybe even they'll go back to maybe giving Isaac a voice in the first game, because he didn't have one in the first game. He was a silent protagonist. So.
Yeah, Dead Space 2 was surprising in that regard. All of a sudden he could talk.
So maybe they'll unify things by doing that, and usually when they do a remake in these kinds of things these days, they'll add like a significant area for people who have already beaten the game. So I would be very surprised if that were not the case with this one as well. So, I think that's probably what they'll do. What do you think?
I have no idea. But my guess is like Demon Souls. It'll just be a way better looking Dead Space 1.
Yeah. I mean, here's the problem is, like, when people were playing Dead Space, they were playing, a lot of people played it on PS3, and PS3 games are basically inaccessible these days. So it's really a shame, and a good many 360 games still didn't make the backwards compatible list. So.
Although the good news, though, is Dead Space 1 in particular is readily available on GOG and I assume Steam. The sequels probably via EA's service, Origin. Yeah.
No, they are. All the Dead Space games are on Origin and are very accessible. I could play them right now if you wanted to play them on your PC. And luckily, probably most people's PCs right now, even like a mid to low, can probably run them now.
Well, yeah. I mean, now we're talking like a 10-year-old game.
Yeah, exactly. They're old. But they are beautiful games either way. You won't have any problem.
The visuals hold up.
Yeah, I love the atmosphere in this game. I love the stomping. The stomping is just so look, chef's kiss.
I think one of the most like, well, I don't know what is the like significant, I guess, features of Dead Space just across the board is the sound design. Like,
yeah, the sound design is amazing.
The visuals are nice and scary, but man, the sound is so good.
Yeah, Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 are on Steam as well. So there you go.
Oh, okay. I guess it's just GOG only has the first one.
They're currently on sale, but the entire shebang with all the DLC is $18. That is well worth it.
That's impressive. Although Dead Space 3, you might have to do a DRM check because you had to even on PS3, so I'm not 100%.
I mean, if you have it on Steam, I don't see why you would need to do a DRM check.
I don't either, but there are some games on Steam that have other DRM, which everybody just blasts with downvotes once they find out.
Yeah, it includes third-party DRM, EA Online Activation, and Origin
in case Steam wasn't proof enough for you, or in case your physical PS3 disc wasn't proof enough for you. It's like, just fuck off, man.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well just own it through Origin, unless you just want everything in one space, because, like, going from one launcher to another is really annoying.
Yes.
I just want it to be all in one place. I do recommend these games, but if they're gonna remake the first one, just wait for the remake, because I'm sure they'll do it really well, because EA remakes have been pretty good lately. Like anything that they've been doing have been like pretty good lately. So
I will say the second game is probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The third one is good, but it's co-op stuff. Again, I know it's weird for me to say this. I brought this up last time, but its co-op stuff is spectacular.
Yeah, it's one of those games where, like, kind of like Resident Evil 5, it's a lot more fun with the co-op enabled.
Well, no, well, that's definitely true too. But there are multiplayer only missions that you must be co-op to access, and those where the game really shines. Like
Yeah.
you could easily miss those if you're playing single player because like you can't access those. But those missions are some of the best part of the whole game.
Okay, I definitely want to play those eventually. I want to get around to it. Moving on from that, Arcade Archives released kind of a landmark title from Konami here, Vendetta, aka Crime Fighters 2 on the Switch and PS4 recently, I think. So, for the longest time, Konami did not release ports of a lot of their arcade games. The ones that we got were amazing. You know, you had Sunset Riders and Turtles in Time and things like that. But they neglected a lot of their arcade games that were really awesome. And this is a really, really good beat 'em up. It is hands down way better than Crime Fighters 1. Let's just put that aside. But this is a really, really good beat 'em up, and it doesn't feel like Final Fight. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's trying to ape its deal. It kind of has its own thing going on. And I really, really like this game. Its sequel is even, or I guess semi-sequel, like it's kind of like maybe a spiritual successor. There's a third game that isn't technically related, I guess, which is called Violent Storm. That game is like phenomenal, especially in the graphics category.
Violent Storm is a great final boss theme in Baten Kaidos.
Oh yeah.
Just thought I'd bring that up. I'm helping.
But yeah, I wanted to throw this out there because Konami is finally like putting out some of its like hard hitting like arcade games that people have always wanted access to, and it's kind of quietly releasing them on Arcade Archives on the Switch, like one by one here. They finally put the Sunset Riders was like the first really like, oh man, they're really doing this now kind of things, and just having them put out Vendetta is just a big surprise, and I hope they keep going. I hope we get Violent Storm as well, because they have some really, really good games, and they need to put out that ninja counterpart to Sunset Riders. I forget what that game is called, but I think it's just called Ninja Warriors or something like that.
That's something else.
Taito one.
Yeah, that's the robots.
Yeah, but I think it's called something like that. You know what I mean? But I really, really think that this is one that you should pick up if you like beat 'em ups from that era. I certainly do, and I just love that they're finally getting to this stuff. You know, this Arcade Archives, was thriving on like early '80s arcade hits from Japan that we had barely even known. So like, I don't have any nostalgia for a lot of their earlier releases, but it was Mystic Warriors. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But they're finally getting to the era of games that I love, that I always wanted to play as a kid or wanted to beat as a kid and never had enough money for when I went to the arcade, or even some that like I didn't even see back then because like they were comparatively rare. But I knew about them, or I had found out about them when I went through MAME lists and things like that. So, or Hardcore Gaming 101 pointed them out to us finally, So I'm just really excited for this era of Arcade Archives. I mean, they really did a great job with the Nintendo games, especially. Like, we have never had access to the full arcade versions of Donkey Kong, except for like Donkey Kong 64's like Easter egg. But like the full version of Donkey Kong, for some fucking reason, has never surfaced, until now. Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3 has never had a port that was arcade perfect. Super Punch Out and Punch Out never had arcade perfect ports. They always had their console counterparts, which are different games. So yeah, I love this era. I think it's just so cool, and I love that they're popular enough for them to keep pumping out games from this era. It's just so much fun. Moving on from that, man, I don't know why they're doing this. They're making themselves look so terrible by doing this, but they're adding games to the SNES app. I think this week on the 28th on Switch, if you have Switch Online, and the games that they're adding are
stuff that no one's heard of.
Nobody cares about. There's one game on here that you might know about, and the other two are like for people that know the system super well. The first one is Claymates, which is kind of the predecessor to Clay Fighter. It's made by the same people, but it's like a platformer instead. And then there's Jelly Boy, which is like an ocean platformer from like the Amiga that like got onto the SNES. And Bamboozle, which is a very mediocre puzzle platformer kind of game. I don't know what they're doing here. Like lately, the releases have been so goddamn subpar. These are like games that you could buy for $5 these days, like at any retro game store. Nobody has any love for them. And not that like certain things aren't worth exploring, or not that I'm mad that they're included, but they really need to put some heavy hitters that they don't have yet on here, and people are getting upset, and kind of rightfully so. Like, have you given up entirely on releasing games that people have been asking for? Like Earthbound. Earthbound is on other systems. Like, you could play that on your 3DS right now.
Well,
right?
This is what I was going to mention. Earthbound and Super Mario RPG, which are actually on the SNES Classic, but not the eShop.
It's so weird. Yeah, it's really bizarre. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Maybe they made like one-time deals, but like make that deal. Like, people will play it. People will play it. Why have they not come out with an N64 app? Where's that? Where's your Game Boy Advance app? Where's that? Like,
And N64 they already had on the damn Wii U.
Yeah. I don't get it. Like, why do we just have an NES and an SNES app that don't really have everything you would ever want on those systems? I mean, granted, like the Konami games that you'd really want to play have their own collection by Konami, but there's no Square games at all in these things, right? I don't think. There's no Capcom games, like, Capcom has their own ones, so like, and Nintendo doesn't have all of their games on there, so like I just don't, like, I don't know, I don't get what they're doing here, and it's kind of sad. And it seems like they're just letting whoever wants to, whoever like has these rights to these like piss poor games these days, just put whatever they want on here, like Eliminator Boat Duel. Like, who the fuck wants that? Nobody. Not that I don't want to be like one of those whiny babies that's not satisfied with anything, but in this instance, I think they're right to be mad. Like, you don't even have like one game out of the 3 that people were looking forward to. Like, not even one. Like, or an obscurity that's really good. Like, these games aren't that great. I played these. Jelly Boy is really pretty terrible, honestly. So I don't get it. It's one of those European platformers, that just wasn't that good back then. I don't know. And just a quick kind of mention of this, but at the Olympics, as like, the opening, ceremonies have been happening. It's just kind of interesting. A couple nations have come out to video game music. Like,
there's been like a Square Enix or Square Enix, whatever, like showcase. Like, I've heard there was like Song of the Ancients from Nier and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's like, what?
Gradius, like a Gradius song in one of the Japanese teams.
Yeah, I think
Um,
someone said that there might have been like Starlight Zone from the original Sonic the Hedgehog.
oh wow.
Do 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 do. Like what? All right.
Monster Hunter for one of Albania's teams.
Yeah, I think there was like
Yeah,
Frog's theme and Robo's theme from Chrono Trigger.
that's awesome. But yeah. I guess it maybe because it's in Japan, like they've been able to get rights to that kind of thing. But
I
it's
guess so,
pretty
but
cool.
man, they're going hard on this stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And it's funny because like our parents watch this and they're like, oh, interesting music. I
Yeah,
wonder like what the title
only
is.
like hyper nerds that don't really watch the Olympics know what these are.
Yeah, like their kids are like, is that Nier? What the fuck? Song of the Ancients, one of the greatest tracks in the game.
So good, so good.
Song of the Ancients, by the way, is something that you may have heard. You haven't played much Nier, but you should have heard that.
I've listened to the whole soundtrack, so
Oh, you have? Okay.
many times.
Because Song of the Ancients is what, in the original Nier, what Devila is playing just casually in town.
Oh yeah, it's my
little-
favorite. It's
on
my
our
favorite
lute.
song in the whole thing.
Yeah, so like, it's very
I
good.
love it. I love it, and I love the one that she sings. The version of it she sings with her sister. That's just really.
Yeah, which I am pleased is part of the soundtrack. The duet.
It's really cool.
There's a whole side quest to get that to happen because Popola's like, I don't really like. I feel self-conscious singing. I only really open up when I'm drunk, so you have to like go get her like the ingredients to make the alcohol that's required for her to like.
Yeah, one sister
get up to
doesn't
doing it.
perform anymore, right? But the
Yeah,
other
I
one
believe it
does.
was Popola, whereas
Yeah.
Devila does. It might be the other way around, but the one who plays
Yeah.
the instrument is no problem, but the one who doesn't is just like, and then you finally get them both to do it, and it's fantastic.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it might be my favorite track in the whole thing. Might be my favorite track from that era.
That's damn good. I also like the Wretched Automatons, the robot machine dungeon,
That one's really
and the final boss theme, which is spectacular.
good. Yeah, that whole soundtrack was.
Yeah, that is genuinely one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Possibly even eking out a victory against Nier Automata. But Automata is also a brilliant soundtrack.
Amazing stuff.
Also, shout out to Dragon Guard 3 soundtrack. It's a totally different vibe, but it's the same composer and it's damn good.
Awesome. Well, moving on from that, I just have this one last bit here, but I wanted to throw this out here because this is just kind of a part of my my teenage years is still kind of going strong. So I didn't know that this would ever happen because like I kind of figured the last one they did was gonna be kind of like the last thing they ever did with this franchise. But the View Askew verse lives, Lotus. So Kevin Smith has announced that Clerks 3 is in pre-production with Lionsgate. So
Yeah, that's pretty shocking.
it's pretty shocking considering that I guess for a while there he hadn't made anything in the View Askew verse. He kind of did some other side projects and things like that, and other movies that were kind of related, like Hockey Hosers. I think is
Yoga
related to
Hosers.
Tusk. Yeah, like his movies recently have been very low profile and very kind of indie.
Yeah.
So like ever since I think the last like big like Hollywood movie he made was Cop Out, and so like after that he kind of he didn't like the way things were going. He wanted to make a movie the way he wanted to make it. So he kind of like he did some stuff of varying quality and things
Sure.
like that. But he liked what he was doing at least, right?
By the way, speaking of which, this is deviating from Clerks 3, but like 5 minutes ago, Masters of the Universe Revelation has hit whatever the hell streaming site it's on. So I think it's like 5 or 6 episodes.
I think it's a Netflix series.
Netflix? Sure. So yeah, it just came out as well, and that was also like a thing Kevin Smith contributed to.
Yeah, I'm hearing mixed reviews. Some people really like it, and some people are like, angry.
Well, this is one of those things where I think it's like The Last of Us 2, where I don't know if they actually don't like the show or if they're just being babies because it doesn't star He-Man.
Yeah.
It's not called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's called Masters of the Universe Revelation. He-Man is in the show, but I think it's more about, what's her name, Teela?
Yeah. And a lot of people, some people had guessed that it was going to be like that. And honestly, like, who gives a shit? He-Man was never a good character.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to mention. Like, I know He-Man is stereotypically, like, the character, but, like, that show fucking sucked. Like, I don't care who the new show stars, He-Man or somebody else, but, like, anything is better. Anything is better than that 80s crap.
Apparently the Cartoon Network reboot, the first reboot was pretty good.
Oh, I don't even know if I knew that existed.
But, yeah, I mean, He-Man was a show that was very cynical. It was
it was a Hasbro show.
It was a show that was absolutely a commercial. Like,
yeah, the entire
100%.
show was a commercial, just like She-Ra, just like My Little Pony, just like Transformers, and I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. G.I. Joe. Yeah. TMNT was like the best of all those, and it was still pretty hit or miss.
Well, G.I. Joe and Transformers were a little bit on the better side. Yeah,
G.I. Joe and Transformers were like... G.I. Joe, from what I remember of it, was acceptable. Transformers was either alright or like better. Total crap, like depending on the episode.
Yeah, there was some total crap going on there too. But the Turtles was the best out of them all. You were right.
Yeah, Turtles is easily the best, and even it was like, okay.
Yeah, you didn't start seeing like ones with a developed story and like like real.
No, in fact, I think they actively resisted that at first.
Yeah. You didn't start seeing that kind of thing until the mid-90s, I think, and then you started seeing better kids cartoons. Honestly, not until Batman. I always point to the Tiny Toons and Tiny Toon Adventures and Batman, the animated series, as kind of when cartoons started being smarter.
Yeah. The Ghostbusters show was also very good.
That one was good. Yeah, Real Ghostbusters was good.
No, not even that. Just the 80s Ghostbusters. Although Real Ghostbusters was very good.
It was called The Real Ghostbusters.
The first one was?
Yeah.
Wasn't the Real Ghostbusters that newer one with like the different cast?
That was Ghostbusters Extreme.
Excuse me. Okay.
So there was a Hanna-Barbera shitty, crummy show called Ghostbusters when the movie came out.
Okay.
And they were unrelated. And then when they wanted to make a cartoon show based off of the movie property, they had to call it The Real Ghostbusters because there was, confusion.
You know what that reminds me of, by the way? This is a weird thing related to the confusion, but I learned from Red Letter Media that, you know in the Ghostbusters they have the Ecto-1?
Yeah.
Do you know what the license plate says on their new car in Ghostbusters 2?
No.
It's weirdly Ecto-1A, and you're like, how the hell is this not Ecto-2? That's not even clever. It's just the lowest hanging fruit. And it turns out there was a toy that was like a helicopter or something that had Ecto-2. So that's taken.
From the Real Ghostbusters. Yeah. But getting back to what we were talking about here, for a while there, Kevin Smith made movies that were unrelated to his old franchise, which consisted of Clerks, then what was the second one? Was it Mallrats? And then...
I don't know. I actually haven't seen much of Kevin Smith's stuff, except for, I saw Clerks 1, once. I saw Clerks 2 in theaters, and I saw Dogma once or twice.
So the View Askew-verse was Clerks, then Mallrats, then Chasing Amy, then Dogma, then Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And
I did see that one.
And then Clerks 2. It kind of stopped with Clerks 2. And I love all of the original movies. A lot of people say that they really like Chasing Amy. That's my least favorite, believe it or not, because I just don't like the dynamic of the characters. I don't think they treat each other well. I think they're kind of shitty to each other, so I don't like it. whereas the other movies at least are just kind of fun romps. And especially like I think that Dogma might be the best one.
Yeah, Dogma was pretty great.
And it's kind of hard to get a hold of these days, I think, because it's like wrapped up with the Weinstein issues. But I, as a kid, as a teenager, getting into cinema and watching like movies for the first time and collecting DVDs and stuff, like all of these movies were like a big part of kind of like geeks finally getting something in a movie that was popular.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe now in a world that's dominated by the MCU, which everybody knows about and interacts with. Just about everybody. It's like the most mainstream thing you can think of. It's not a nerdy thing to like superheroes, but there was a time in which, you know, reading comic books and you know, loving old cartoons was not a mainstream thing.
Yeah.
And Clerks was like before the internet, before people, you know, really went into like chat rooms and stuff and started, you know, talking about like, you know, Mr. Fantastic, how did you know, how did he have relations with his wife, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, and that was even kind of a thing in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, was they were like discovering what the internet was.
Exactly. They were making fun of the fact that like what they had been doing the whole time got like way popularized like without them, like it like outside of them, which is really funny because, you know, the original Clerks just had like a couple nerdy guys working dead end stupid dumbass jobs.
Yeah, and like one of my favorite scenes in that movie was when
talking about the Death Star.
Yeah, with the contractors, and then an actual contractor who may or may not know anything about Star Wars walks in. He's like, I could weigh on this because I'm from the contractor view of things. And here's what happens when you take a job. You go in with certain expectations and knowing certain things will happen. And like, he just shot down Randall's arguments that the contractors on the Death Star 2 did not deserve it. It's like, yeah, if you're going to sign up for a criminal, you got to expect shit to happen. It sucks that it happened to them, but they knew it was like a possibility. It's like,
it's like doing a contract job for a mafioso. We're like, you know who
yes,
he is.
Exactly. Like, I mean, if you look up the clip now, it's like, it doesn't sound like a natural conversation like Pulp Fiction. It sounds like guys reading lines from a movie, but what they're saying is very entertaining.
Back then, that was revolutionary.
Yeah, it's like Jackie Chan's The Drunken Master versus The Drunken Master 2. Or like Legend of the Drunken Master, because in the Legend of the Drunken Master, that fight is fucking brutal. In the first movie, it's very obviously very heavily choreographed, like
It's very old school.
But like it's still impressive that they're able to pull this off. Like that's what Clerks 1 feels like. It feels like a guy reading cleverly written dialogue rather than. Like,
I mean, he made it just out of college on his credit card.
That's the thing. Like, but whereas Pulp Fiction, it sounds like everybody's ad-libbing it when they're not. Clerks does not feel like that, but it's still very entertaining to hear, like, yeah, the kind of conversation you would have with your friend in the hallway in school, but like in a real movie.
Yeah, Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino come from like the same era and even same production company. Like, this was all like Weinstein Miramax stuff. Back then, it was like a very hip dialogue.
Yeah, there was only one return of, and that is of the Jedi. It's freaking great.
And you know what? Like, Quentin Tarantino has stuff like that in his movies too. I mean, like Kill Bill has like a whole soliloquy about like Superman.
Yes.
You know, at
Superman,
the very end of it,
the disguise is the human, not the costume. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, geez, like. Even Reservoir Dogs has like, you know, discussion about like the Thing, like
really?
Yeah. He talks about how Nice Guy Eddie looks like the Thing, you know, from Fantastic Four. I mean, like they come from the same era of like, you know, True Romance is also another Quentin Tarantino written movie. He didn't direct it, but it like Christian Slater's character in there is definitely like a Quentin Tarantino / like Kevin Smith kind of guy talking about comic books while shooting people. Like, and you know,
well, like, even the very first thing you see in Kill Bill is "Revenge is a dish best served cold," and then it says it's an old Klingon proverb, which that's not where that's from, but the fact that he brought up Klingons at all.
Yeah, it's really funny. Actually, it was kind of funny because this is unrelated, but on Twitter somebody was just like, "Wow, Kojima is like the king of a character getting like their hand blown off and bleeding out, and then they have a soliloquy." I was like, "No, Shakespeare probably near that."
Yeah.
But
And Ocelot didn't have a soliloquy. He was just like, "Ah, fuck that exoskeleton," and he ran
Vulcan
away.
Raven did though. Vulcan Raven is like the famous one.
He didn't lose a hand.
No, but he obviously got shot and was bleeding out, and
Yeah, and had a
was
giant
making a
speech.
solo.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, that
So did
that's my
Sniper
point.
Wolf. Sniper Wolf had a whole thing when she went out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like these people would have just died.
And
Anyway.
Psycho Mantis, actually. Psycho Mantis also did every damn boss.
Yeah. That's his style. That's what it's very Shakespearean. But anyway, when after Clerks 2 came out, he made some other movies, like Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which is very underrated. I actually really love that movie. I think it's actually very sweet. Like it's the name that turned people off. I think it's kind of a romantic comedy that you know isn't what you think it is. Cop Out's not that great. But I never really saw like Red State, Tusk, Yoga Hosers, Holidays. I've never seen these.
I haven't seen any of this stuff.
Yeah, but he did do a recent Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I never actually got a chance to see, which I think people kind of hold in decent esteem.
And there was also the, I think it was 6-episode animated series called Clerks.
Yeah, I actually really liked the Clerks animated series. That was a DVD that a lot of people bought back in the day as well, because it was a series that got canceled after only airing 2 episodes. So like the 4 episodes that were on the DVD had never aired.
You know what was also great was episode 2 was a flashback episode
to episode 1.
Yeah, that's
and
that's
they didn't
excellent.
air episode 1.
Yeah, and a bunch of the clips weren't even from episode 1.
So like the whole like joke was lost on the people watching the show.
Yeah.
They did show the best episode, which was the 4th one, but still, yeah, they sent it out to die. That's for sure. But that's a shame because like I like that show quite a bit. They did an animated movie that I think everybody hated, but I never got a chance to see that either. But I did want to see the reboot movie, but I'm very surprised that there's going to be a Clerks 3 because Clerks 2 was actually really good. I really liked Clerks 2. I saw that in the theater, and it kind of was like a good send-off, you know, for that group of characters. So I'd be interested to see where he wanted to go from there, because like they had moved on from the Quick Stop to working at a movies.
Well, that's like the opening shot in the movie is the Quick Stop's like on fire. It's like, whoops.
But I really like what they did with that movie and kind of like where they went with it, because like those characters ended up like maturing a lot, and obviously the production value was a lot better than Clerks 1. So
Yeah, I mean, not exactly a high bar there.
yeah, exactly. But I like Kevin Smith. A lot of people like rag on him, but like he just kind of does whatever he wants, which is
You
really
gotta
admirable.
respect that. Yeah, even if it fails, it's like, well, it's his movie.
Yeah, he does everything the way he wants it, and for better or for worse, he put out something that he wanted to do, whether it was, you know, so he could work on a project with his daughter or his friends, whatever. Like he raised money and got to do it on his own and do what he wanted rather than being miserable, which is really admirable, I think. And he's also like, he wears his heart on his sleeve, so he you never get the feeling that he's putting on airs about anything. He's always just talking about what he's going through at that moment, and I like that. He's very vulnerable in that regard. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I like the guy, despite, you know, not following every single thing he's ever done, but I just, you know, grew up with him, you know, that kind of thing. So, and I really love his evenings with Kevin Smith. Have you ever listened to any of those?
Nope.
He talks about like his movie making experiences from like the 90s, and like how like Prince hired him to make like music videos that never got released to anybody. Like he spent like a lot of money making music videos for like Prince like had him direct music videos for him that nobody's ever seen.
That's amazing.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like he had a fight with Tim Burton, like all kinds of stuff. So anyway, anything else for the good of the order there, Lotus?
No, I think that's probably about it.
Okay, so that is the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, where we will be going over good and bad remakes and revisits of, and then finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything. Just give me a DM and let me know who you are and how you know me.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, where I'm currently doing Armored Core Project Phantasma, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, and getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Wonderful. Well, we will see everybody for our discussion on Thursday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.